Welcome to the Eternal ROI podcast, where we share the real stories of workplace transformation. And now, here are your hosts, Will Stewart and Chris Patton.
Welcome to the Eternal ROI podcast. Good to have each and every one of you watching and listening along. I'm Will Stewart, joined as always by Chris Patton, CEO of His Way at Work. Hey, Chris.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Man, I'm excited today. We've got Phil Hanson coming to us from Napierville, Illinois. He is the CEO and owner of CH Hanson Tools. I've known Phil for a couple of years now, and I told him earlier, but I'll tell everybody listening, I've never gotten off of a phone call with Phil, whether I was having a great day beforehand or not. I've never gotten off a phone call with him that I didn't feel better. He just has a way of making you feel better about what's going on and always has a good word. So looking forward to hearing from him today.
Yeah, can't wait. Hey, Phil, how are you?
Good. Set the bar kind of high, Chris. Thanks. I appreciate
That's intentional, brother.
Oh, man. Thanks for taking the time to be on this show. Let's get things started with just telling people a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the company and kind of how you guys have grown and gotten to the point where you are today.
Sure. We're the Hanson company. I'm a fourth generation Hanson to run the Hanson company, and my nephew who works here, he's the fifth generation Hanson. So this has been a family business since 1866.
Wow.
And there are a few companies older than us, and even a few that are still family run that are older than us, but it's not many. It's a pretty small pool. We're still relatively small. We have just under 100 employees. We've been growing tremendously in the last 5 years as the Lord has kind of blessed us with some new opportunities. But we are essentially a manufacturer of hand tools, and we also sell a full line of machinery, drill presses, and grinders, and things of that nature. And then just most recently, we bought a company called Superior Tools this last July, and now we manufacture plumbing tools here in Naperville. So we're growing. We are eternally grateful for the way the Lord's hand has been on our company, and we've been blessed throughout the pandemic to be an essential workforce. We've been working ever since this whole thing started. We've had to adapt and adopt in many different ways, but we're here and growing.
That's awesome. So what's it like, fourth generation with fifth generation in the building? What's that multi-generational experience like?
Ooh. I don't remember how much time we have for this podcast. But there's a really important lesson that I had to learn a really difficult way, and that is there's a lot of pressure. There could be a ton of pressure. And I felt all that pressure because I felt it was on me to continue to bring this company from one generation to the next generation, because my identity was tied to my work. Yeah. But it took the Lord some really strong working in me to realize that my identity is in Him and not in my work. And once He helped me figure that out and slapped me upside the head a few times, I've really enjoyed being part of a fourth generation family-owned business, and all that pressure has kind of gone in a different sort, and it's replaced by a different sort of motivation, which is much better and much more fun, and allowed me, probably, Chris, to be more of an encouragement, because been through some really hard paths and come out of it better for it. And I think some of that helps me to be the type of encouragement that we are called to be to the people around us that we work with.
That's good. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
You covered that in about 30 seconds, but that takes years to sometimes learn, right?
It took a long time. I tell everybody that my faith journey isn't. I can't point to a particular point in time in my life where all of a sudden, boom, I could say that I was saved. It's a slow burn. It keeps on burning, and that is what I am the most grateful for. And it's that constant revelation that He allows me to have that that gets me up and excited each and every day to go to work, Chris.
That's great.
That's awesome. So around since the 1800s, did it start off as a faith-based kind of business that was had the faith in the core? Was it something that kind of came along somewhere later down in the business? Kind of when was that moment when the business started doing some things differently and with its culture and all that?
So I don't have the benefit of knowing my grandparents. I only know my dad, who was the president of the company, and he's the one that kind of trained me and took me under his wing. Although I've been working at the company since I was in 8th grade. But my dad had always the Hanson company has always been fortunate to have a very family-directed sort of culture, not necessarily a faith-based culture, but always a family. And my dad had a plaque on his desk that said, "No race can prosper until it learns that there's as much dignity in tilling a field as in writing a poem." And that's a quote from Booker T. Washington. And that's the way we have always run the business. We have always run the business knowing that everybody's job has dignity, because everybody is dignified because they are a reflection of God's creation. We are all God's children. So we have always run our business that way. And it wasn't until, honestly, probably 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe 7 years ago, when my own faith journey really started to take hold and really started to study how faith impacts work. And where I began to realize the importance of integration of the two, between faith and work.
So that journey you said started about 7 years ago or so. What was the thing that started you on that journey? Was there a single moment?
Well, it's you have to be in community with other people, right? So about seven years ago, I joined a group called C12. So, and C12 is a group of business CEOs that are all like-minded. We all have our faith at the center part of our lives, and we go to our meetings every month, and we have educational resources like a lot of other groups, but we also have a deep devotional section. We're in prayer together, and we're trying to understand how God really wants us to use our businesses to promote our kingdom, to promote His kingdom, because it's not about building our own. It's not about building our own. It's not about building our own network. It's about building His kingdom. That's just another one of those pieces in that slow burn that's coming about.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So once you kind of started down that journey, what were some of the things that you realized where, maybe you guys sound like you have a great family culture and there's a lot of respect there for people, but maybe there were some gaps that were in how you cared for people. What were some of the things you started discovering as you went down that journey?
So I tell this to Chris all the time. I kind of you realize that you come to realize that you can't do it all yourself. That there's for as much as you want to take what you're learning and try and push it out to your team members, you can do that, and you should do that, right? And that's just part of the teamwork and team building, and it's part of the leadership mechanism. But what occurred to me when I was first talking with Chris and discovering what his way at work was doing was that there's a much better way of doing that. When I grew up, my father was the focal point for people that needed help, and my dad was very active in helping them. And for years, we would help people with different resources that they needed to try and improve, and put a lot of people through different addiction recovery programs. And but that was my dad, so that's how I learned it from my dad. So it's like, oh, that's my responsibility. And then as you start to understand what the kingdom is all about, and you realize that if you think it's just your responsibility doing that, it's going to put a great deal of pressure on you. And the fact is, the best part is that doesn't work. That doesn't work well at all. And when we first started looking at his way at work, you're like, if you take a look at some of the things that we were trying to do, it's what a lot of people try to do that are in a position of leadership, like I'm fortunate to be in. It's like we were trying to help people in the Dominican Republic, and we were trying to help people. Mostly it was in the DRs where our efforts were focused. So we had put fundraisers and held banquets and led a mission trip down there, and it's just and then at some point in time the message got sunk into me. They're going, that's great what you're doing around the world, that's really awesome, but what are you doing at home? What are you doing with the people that you are really in contact with every day? And that kind of stopped me in my tracks. And that was one of those moments where I went, whoa, boom. Yeah. Why am I doing that? Why am I not paying as much attention to the people that I'm in proximity with every day as I am somebody halfway around the world? And I think it's because as leaders and as presidents or CEOs or anybody that has a heart for helping other people, it's pretty easy to get tied up into building something really big and kind of grand. Hey, I want to build a hospital, or we're going to go in and build a job enrichment program at a prison somewhere for kids. And that's cool. And we're still doing some of that. But now we've directed most of those resources internally. And that happens to match up really well with our core values. Our core values are customer-oriented, optimistic, getting it done, and serving others. And those things all started to kind of fold together at about the same time. And when, you really can't say that you're serving others well until you are serving each other. And that's kind of where that whole thing took hold.
Wow, that's great.
I love that. There's a lot of businesses, I think, that go through that experience where they realize, hey, although there's lots of needs everywhere, but there's a lot of needs that can be, met at home. And do you think it's easy just to, I guess maybe it's easy just to see someone and just assume if they have a smile on their face or they're just, putting up a front, you feel like, oh, they're fine. I'm sure they're fine. If they ever need help, they would they'd tell us.
And that's really before we got together this morning, I went and talked to a couple of our team members that we call this the Hanson Helps team, right? There's 5 people on the Hanson Helps team. Each one of those people are from a different part of our company, right? One person from the accounting side of it, one person from the IT side of it, a couple people in the factory, another person from the warehouse, and then we've got a coordinator. And when I was just talking to them, what I absolutely love more than anything else is about how God multiplies. How God multiplies his blessings through other people. Because when I was trying to do this on my own, and I say that, and that's not really true, but maybe there were a couple people that people would go to in our company. But it was really just, whenever anybody had a problem, they go to somebody else, and then the person would usually end up coming to me. And now that we have this team together, God has just multiplied our outreach. So instead, as I was talking to him today, I'm like, how many, if it's ever happened where somebody at the company that has come to you about somebody else that they know, and they're like, oh yeah, that happens all the time. So we teach that as part of our serving others, and the Luke 10:27, the parable of the Good Samaritan, that we talk about our core values, that in order to serve people, you have to be in close proximity to those people, right? When Jesus tells the parable of the Good Samaritan, this this guy just doesn't, leave a $20 bill on his chest and walk away. He clothes him, he picks him up, he's carrying him, he's probably putting him on his donkey, and then he's walking. So, he's gotten dirty. He's gotten in close proximity. He's gotten that person's sweat on him. He's gotten that person's blood on him. He's cleaned that person up. This sort of help is it's messy, right? Because people are messy, lives are messy, and people don't. My dad always told me that he's like, look, if you think people leave their troubles at the door, he goes, they don't. They bring all their troubles with them. So we have to, when the people really have trouble, we have to bring that out, and we have to engage them in a conversation. We have to get that proximity together with them. And the Hanson Helps team takes that, multiplies it, because most of those people would never talk to me about it, but they'll talk to them, and then somebody else will talk to somebody else, and then they'll talk to somebody else. And now our outreach is exponentially greater inside our company, but we're also going to other countries that we never would have been to either. Now we're in, not only are we in Honduras, but we're in Guatemala, and we're in Mexico, and we've done a little bit in Puerto Rico, I think, too, and a lot more internally and within our community, because we have a lot more people. This is the other beautiful part about diversity, is that the diversity, when you take what you have and you spread it out, and you allow that community to grow, now you get a diversity of other ideas as to what to do. And that diversity is absolutely beautiful. And it's so unexpected. And it just blows me away when I look at the impact that our team members have had on each other and their communities, both here and in other places I never imagined. They are doing things I never expected to see happen. And it's awesome. It just makes me weep, really.
That's powerful. Are there any particular stories that stick out to you of ways that people have been impacted inside your company or in close proximity, and have had their lives changed because there was a process in place to take care of them? So
a couple of years ago, we had a little Christmas bonus that we gave out. It was $100 in cash. So